Hello, welcome to this episode of Learning How to Code. Today we will be talking about looping. Looping as a concept in programming, it just means I'm going to run this code over and over and over again until something happens that makes me stop. And there can be a variety of different things, but usually it's some condition. Now, there are four types of looping structure commonly used looping structures in C Sharp, and of which two are used most often, and we will only be talking about one today. The one we will be talking about is the while loop. The while loop is a very simple structure, as you can see right here. It's basically, this is the entire thing. It's that while, and these two brackets. That's all a while loop is. And how it works is that once the computer gets to this particular line of code, it will say, have I passed the test? In this case, the test is inside these parentheses. And if it passes the test, it will run this code. It will then do the test again and then run the code. And it will keep repeating that over and over and over again until it has failed the test. Once it's failed the test, it will leave these brackets and it will no longer run this code. And that's all a while loop is. So now we're going to run the while loop, and let me make sure I close this. So let's just have it run. As you can see, it ran until it reached 100, and we go all the way to the beginning. Okay, good. We have 1 right there. Perfect. And we can see that, and now we're going to go through how it's doing what it's doing. So as you can see, I have set up a variable called integer that has the name I, that has the type of integer, and I've initialized it to equal 1. Read the comments. I also have another boolean called isTrue that I've set to true. Now I'm going to my while loop. We're seeing some new code. While is true, and we already know is true. That's basically just saying while true, and true will always be true, do everything in here. And what it's doing in here is it's going to print out before I equals whatever the value of I was. Then it's going to increase the value of I by +1. In this case, I was 1. So what it will do 1 plus 1. It will say that's 2. And then it will set I equal to 2. And now I is equal to 2. As we can see in the code, I equals 2. It will then print out the change where it says I plus 1 is equal to I. And we've already changed what I is at this line of code right here, which is 2. So we get I plus 1 equals 2. And then we say, then we actually perform our check. And if you remember, this is an if-else statement. And what happens here is if I is equal to 100, is true is false. And since false is not true, the code will stop. Obviously, as you can see, 2 is not 100, and so it just keeps running and running and running and running until it gets to 100, after which the code stops running. As you can see, the while loop is a very simple concept. It's not very hard to do. But it does have a few other things that you may want to have. You might want to know about it. That there is a few other constructs that we need to talk about that is important to know about loops. Loops, and I'm gonna show them to you right now. One of them is break. Break is a special keyword that allows you to come out of a loop. So as you can see, I'm just gonna kind of let this code run, and you're gonna see something happen. And I actually not gonna see something happen. I want you to take a second to think about what's gonna happen. We're no longer using is true any longer. It's just saying while true. So take a few seconds and try to think about, pause the video and think about, what's gonna happen if while true, if true is always true and it's not being changed, what's gonna happen? well, what's going to happen is this loop will not stop. And as you can see, it's just going and going and going and going and going. It's not stopping. If we want it to stop, we need to actually do something about that. Now, why does the computer, knowing that this code will never end, allow us to do this? One, there are some things in life that just kind of that you don't know when they'll stop. You just need it to run until the computer runs out of power. And the second reason is there is a way to get out of this. And as I said before, it's called break. Break allows you to get out of any loop. Let me change my word. Break lets you get out of any innermost loop. So imagine if I had a while loop like this, but it was inside another while loop. If I put a break here, which will make this code stop at 100, exactly how it did before, if it's inside another while loop, it will not break me out of this while loop. Instead, it will go back into this while loop I had right now, and it will run this code again. And it will just kind of actually, I might as well show you as an example. Let me run this first so you can see how it's working. And you can see it works exactly the same way. And if I put it in another while loop, we're going to see it basically just kind of keep going to 100 over and over. Oh, yeah, my mistake. So I made a little mistake. And, if you think about it for a second, pause the video and think about why this number didn't just keep repeating 100 over and over and over again. Okay, that's enough time. The reason for that is because I equals we're setting up I outside of the while loop. So when it comes out of this loop, it goes here and then it goes back in here again, and it just keeps incrementing I. So to fix this issue, what I actually have to do is I need to copy this and put it in the loop so that it can actually see what's going on and actually do its job properly. Now you're going to see 100 over and over and over again. And you can see it now, it's never going up anywhere near as high as it was before. Because what's happening is, what we said we want it to happen. It's going to run this code until it gets to 100. It's going to stop. It's going to leave this loop. It's going to come out into this loop. It's going to set I to be equal to 1 again. And then it's going to start this entire thing over again until it gets to 100. Come back out. And it's just, it's going to repeat what I just said over and over and over again. It can never leave. And because break can only take you out of the innermost loop. And let me Control Z and set this code back to where it was before. And now I can't see it. And there's one more thing we need to know, and that is continue. Now continue is a little bit different. What continue does is it allows you to skip all the code that happens after continue and let you print out. Let me translate. Continue lets you skip any code that comes after it and go back to the beginning of the loop. Think of it kind of like if you had like let's say you're having a bad day and just like, I don't feel like going through the rest of the day. So you just say, instead of finishing all my work, I'm going to go to bed early. I'm just going to sleep and I'll wake up tomorrow and start over. Not start over, but you go to the next day because you can't go back in time. That is what continue is. It is simply going to bed, saying, forget everything else. I'm not doing you. I'm going to go back to the morning. I'm going to go to next morning and start from there instead because something isn't right. In this case, we will be using continue to skip every even number. And so just give me a second to make those changes. Yeah, I was being kind of dumb. I forgot that I needed a break to get out. So now I kind of want you to pause the video and think about what do you think is going to happen? Okay, that's enough. So basically, what's going to happen is that it's going to say before I, it's going to change I will then be checked for if it's even. If it's not even, it will print out after I. If it is even, it's going to print continue. And it's just going to skip. It's just going to skip printing after. So you're just going to see before for every number, but for after, you will only ever see the odd numbers. And once we get to 100, it will stop. Oh, there's a problem. So there's a problem. With 100 being an even number, we're going to skip. I expect we are going to skip 100. I just kind of did it in my head, and I think we're going to skip 100 by accident. And let's see if that happens. But that's what I'm expecting. Yep, we skip 100. So I'm going to set this. So I'm going to change this instead of being when I. Don't worry about this, but this is basically just saying if I is greater than 100, stop running the code. Just focus. So just focus on continue, and so it's going to stop by itself. And you see that it stopped this time because I was greater than 100. And you see I equals 1, I equals 2, then it does 3, 5, all the afters only shows up during even numbers, because this continue will come in, say everything that's in here, ignore it. And that's why, I had to fix the issue with 100 by changing what was in here. Don't worry about this. We'll talk about, greater than, less than, equal than later, but just understand that all this code is doing is it's going from 1 to 100, and it's going to increase the value by 1. It's going to see if that number is even. If it's not even, it'll print out after. And if the number is 100, greater than 100, it's going to stop running the code. As you can see, while loops are a very simple concept. I hope I didn't overcomplicate it. If you have any questions, please, but put a comment, say like, oh, could you explain this? Or I got a little bit confused at this part. It helps me, improve these videos, and helps, improve the amount of, different content, on these types of sites. Because I understand I'm not going to go into that, but just, help me do better. Give me more information so that I can produce better content and whatnot. Anyway, have a great day. Thank you for your time.